Ms. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Liu, for being here. And we always have to watch when we say something and get a little twisted tongue, because we will obviously have that come back to us.
I appreciate the opportunity to clarify.
I want to come back to 2 years ago when you were before this committee and we were talking about the budget and about the balance. And I want to go back to a couple of things that were said in here. My colleague from Texas talking about balancing the budget. As a matter of fact, we see in this budget that we're going to increase our spending by $2.4 trillion over the next 10 years. We're going to add $8.5 trillion in debt to our current debt, and I know that you cannot tell us what that might look like here as we look at the debt limit, but I'll be very interested to see what that's going to turn out to be. And then we're going to increase federal spending by $240 billion in just this next year. So when you talk about in your both written comments and your verbal comments that you gave us, you talk about this being a balanced fiscal approach. In my life with my parents and teaching me what is a balanced fiscal approach is not to have a lot of debt. And when I look at what we're leaving for the future of our children, having not a lot of debt is also very important. So I'm very concerned about us not getting to, and that was a big part of our conversation we had 2 years ago, is that the president's budget did not ever come to a balance. And you mentioned about growing the economy, but if we see that the debt that we owe and there's an increase in interest rates, we're not going to be able to sustain, no matter how much growth we have, in paying back our debt. So I'm very concerned about that. I want to go to one other thing that you said in your opening comments about the economy and increasing job creation. And I want to do like Paul Harvey says, the rest of the story, because the rest of the story is more than just looking at unemployment. I want to read to you a clip that's out of Market Watch, which was published in January the 9th. And they said the U.S. added 252,000 jobs, which is absolutely great that we're adding jobs in December, and the unemployment rate fell from 5.6 to fell to 5.6 from 5.8, but the hourly wages declined and more Americans dropped out of the workforce. So when we talk about unemployment rate, that really is not the true number that we should be looking at. As a matter of fact, they end their article by saying, yet the labor workforce participation rate dropped by 0.2% in December to 62.7%, matching the post-recession rate and the lowest level that we have seen since 1978. So when we talk about having a good economy and as you report, I think we do have to be very careful about how we use numbers, because these policies that are being set forward don't show us that we're having an increase in the middle class value of their life by having decreased wages, a third of the people who could potentially be working not in the workforce. And this is very disturbing. There are policies that are set by this administration that do affect this. And I think we have to be careful as you chronicle what's happening and what sounds to be such a cheery thing to really say what the truth is. Now I'm going to get to my final question here, and I know I'm not leaving you a lot of time, but there's so much to talk about. And that is what I hear in the frustration by the people back in my district, in particular in their savings for their children's future in education and also their retirement. And as you know, we had an opportunity to work across the aisle. Congressman Davis and myself worked on the tax breaks or the loophole, or excuse me, the complicated tax code having to do with education taxes. 15 different education tax breaks in the code, 90 pages in the IRS for the instructions. We put out a plan that was passed here in the House. It did not move forward in the Senate. And in the very little time that I'm leaving you to respond, will you assure us that the President will work with us in this particular area, because education is becoming much more expensive, and we'd love to have a conversation to have him consider the proposals that we put forward that we think are very common sense and very good proposals that allow the middle class to actually use the tax code to help them in educating their children. 30 seconds, I'm
not sure how to address all those issues in 30 seconds, but I'll talk fast. We have tried to be very prudent in our assumptions about interest rates in our budget. We are assuming that between 2020 and 2025, interest rates will be, roughly, 4.5%. They're now, much lower than that. So we have built into our forecasts the assumption that interest rates will go up over this period of time. The challenge of paying down our debt is one that is going to take a long time. It's as long as we're maintaining the current deficit projections and we can invest in a growing future economy, we think we have the best chance of having the kind of strong future. And then the chairman's telling me I'm out of time, so I can't get to the other issues.
Could Mr. Chairman just have him acknowledge that he will work with us on this education tax
Say yes.
credit? I would appreciate
We
that. Please say yes.
we obviously have a robust set of proposals in here in education.
Thank
We
you.
hope you will work with us, and we will work with you.
I'm doing this for your 1 o'clock.